can you still realistically make money on Redbubble as a new seller? Now, personally, as you can see, I am making some money on Redbubble pretty much every day. I have a few accounts, and on this account, I've made 3 sales already today, and recently had a 6 sale day. But I haven't uploaded to this website in over a year now. Most of these were old designs. So that begs the question, are you still able to compete as a new seller? Do the old methods still work? Is it more difficult in 2023 to make money? And if so, how much? Why did I stop uploading? And so today I wanted to have an in-depth look at Redbubble and explain some of these specific problems I think that new aspiring Redbubble sellers should definitely be aware of. So let's zoom out and see what the data shows us. So at first glance, things don't look great. And I think the reason why people are asking questions like, is Redbubble dead? Is because if we look at Google Trends, it seems like Redbubble sort of exploded around the pandemic time, like 3 years ago, and then the popularity seems to have declined a bit. It's actually partially on the rise now, but overall, it's a general decline. Now, the stock price definitely follows this. If you'd invested back in 2016 or like even around 2020, you would have gone to the moon, but hopefully you didn't hold on too long because it would have gone straight back down again into the ground. But ultimately, things like Google Trends data and stock price are not necessarily correlated with the actual company's performance. It's just an indication that investors are not as confident it will increase in value. But thankfully, we're not investing in it. Or, I mean, who knows, maybe some of you do own Redbubble stock, in which case, I'm sorry. But mainly, we're wanting to know whether a new seller in 2023 stands a chance at making money on it. So the first potential problem to address, is there enough money and customers to go around? So I've pulled some numbers from the Investor Relations Center. These are all in millions except for the averages and selling artists. First of all, no debt and a decent amount in cash, so don't worry about this company going bankrupt anytime soon. Revenue growth wise, overall trend is that there is some healthy revenue growth. You can see they dipped a little bit this year from 2021, but that's mostly down to mask sales, so an overall sort of long-term increase from 2020, and also a general increase in artist revenue as well. Now, I can't accurately tell you or calculate the competition because I would have to know the exact market share of each seller, but if we assume for now that it's equal for each seller, then we can do some arbitrary calculations to get an idea of what competition looks like in this space. Average number of customers per seller has decreased slightly from 2018, and the average number of dollars per seller has decreased too. So if we're just looking at the numbers, then we would expect it to be slightly harder to sell in 2022 than previous years, but not by too much, right? These are just small decreases. But why is it then that new sellers struggle so much more in 2022 compared to like 2018, 2019? When I calculated those figures, I assumed equal market share between sellers. Now, is it actually equal? Well, clearly not. But why? So when Redbubble started in 2006, it looked probably something like this. So not that many sellers, let's say 3 different sellers, each taking up a pretty big market share, maybe like a fairly equal market share too. But individually, they're not making that much money yet because the company's just a startup. So I don't know the exact total artist revenue for 2006, but let's just say it was like 3,000, right? So a fairly small number. So this person's made 1,000, this person's made 1,000, and this person's also made 1,000. Now, Redbubble has a very low barrier to entry. Anyone on the internet can sign up and start uploading. So that's what's going to happen when more people find out that these 3 people are making money on it. So more people are going to join. Now, if everyone that joined subsequently had an equal opportunity in this platform, then each slice of the pie should continue to be equal, right? But that's not going to happen because firstly, some people have more uploads and they're just better designers, so they're just going to sell more because of that. But secondly, and more importantly, the ability of new sellers to pull customers and pull revenue away from these old sellers is reduced over time and with each new seller, because once a design gets from one of these original sellers gets sales and then it gets to the top of search. That makes it get more traffic because it's at the top of search, which gets it more sales, and it's a repeating cycle. So there's a time advantage to being early, which is that your products rank and then they stay there because they get stuck in this nice little sales rank boost cycle, and then new sellers have to break this cycle in order to rank above you. So what actually happens over time? Well, as demand increases over time, so does sellers, and it starts to look something like this. Now, the blue represents those sellers that started earlier and they sort of hogged the top of search in common keywords, for example, like cat and dog, and it's hard to compete with these sellers and break their sales cycles. Now, if you're a brilliant designer, you get noticed and then people start to buy more of your product than the current top sellers, you might be able to break their cycle and rank above them yourself, but otherwise you're stuck on page 10 and beyond, right? So these other people have also taken up the top of search in less popular but still common keywords, so maybe things like unicorn, motorbike. But the later you join, the harder it is to rank in common keywords. Now, let's say I'm somewhere here. This picture is not to scale, by the way. Then, unfortunately, you as a new seller in 2023, you are here. So you have a very small, thin slice of the pie, and it's difficult for you to get any of this. So how can you move from here to here or beyond? So one way is to increase your uploads to compete with these older sellers. Now, if I make a cat shirt and it happens to sell well, then I've just taken a bit of market share from the other one of these sellers who's selling cat shirts, right? So then I can move from like here to here, I guess. So that is possible, but it's difficult because, as I said, those older sellers have high ranking designs in keywords such as cat. So how can I do this but avoid the competition? Well, I can focus on this, right? So I can focus on expanding the size of the total revenue of Redbubble instead of trying to take it away from these other sellers. So by bringing in new customers or new revenue, and I can do this by finding and designing for keywords that people are actually searching for, but there are less results for, i.e. high demand, low competition keywords, so I can easily rank on the first page. Now, Redbubble also pays for Google ads and retargeting ads, so I can get these extra customers from Google that otherwise wouldn't have bought anything from Redbubble if it hadn't been for my design, and that's through keywords. So 2 ways to get from here to here. Competing directly by increasing your market share for given keywords, or finding new keywords to bring in new customers and new revenue. Why not do both? So find the high demand, low competition keywords and then upload as many designs as possible in those keywords. It'll bring in new traffic and new revenue to Redbubble as a whole instead of trying to take it from existing sellers. And that's how I was able to make money on Redbubble, 2 years ago at a time when everyone said it was too competitive. Now, by finding these low competition, high demand niches using keyword research tools, I have a lot of videos on my channel about how I did that. I was able to make a bit of money. Now, as a side note, you can get this extra traffic from your own social media or paid advertising. But in my opinion, that defeats the purpose because Redbubble literally brings traffic to you. It has 30 million visitors or above every month, and you're going to bring 100 visitors from Instagram. So not to mention, they also do marketing on your behalf, so might as well take advantage of that. This whole thing just requires such little effort. You just get a commission on sales. So in that way, it's more similar to like affiliate marketing than it is actually running an e-commerce business. Now, if you're going to actually go the active marketing route, you're better off selling on your own website because that just eliminates the competition, at least on the website, and you get better profits and you can actually build a brand and customer base, right? So hopefully that explains why it's more difficult to sell on Redbubble in 2023, why the old tricks don't work anymore. You can't just upload random pictures and get sales anymore, unfortunately. But it's definitely not impossible to make sales. Apart from competition, Redbubble does have some other issues. I think the next biggest thing being tag spamming, but it seems like they have done something about it, which is really positive to see. Just as a demonstration, they used to actually let you put a maximum of 50 tags, and people would find these sort of high demand, low competition keywords, and then they would spam them like 50 times. And even though they said it didn't affect your ranking. It clearly did, because everyone at the top of search for those keywords were tag spamming. Oh yeah, I guess that's another way you could go from here to here as well, just tag spam. But it seems like they've actually addressed that now. So here it says use 15 relevant tags per upload. It didn't used to say that. So if I upload this thing, it actually cuts you off if you add too many tags. I think it's a really great change, and people were asking them to do this ages ago, so I'm really glad they listened. Now, if you look in the investor reports, there are some major risks that they are looking to deal with. So pretty much the same thing that they keep mentioning every year. Is competitive activity, intellectual property infringing, and basically a lot of really low quality designs. Now, it's something that every POD platform deals with, but Redbubble has been hit especially hard by these things because of its popularity, that explosion in the pandemic. So they're trying to do something about that. They say this every year. Exactly what, I don't really know, but they are aware of it. That's all I can say. Now, something they haven't mentioned in here is technical things such as suspension errors. Now, they have a historical record of accidentally suspending people from time to time. And I'm sure that many people were suspended for a reason, but some were not. And I've done a whole video on it, actually. But nevertheless, it's something you should know before going into it. Because of that, I don't really want to rely too heavily on this platform. And I feel like I've done enough work on it for now. I just like to sort of diversify my income and work on things like making digital products and my YouTube channel. Will I come back to print on demand eventually? Maybe. But for me, it's really a personal preference thing. Redbubble is just one way to make money online. Just happen to have a lot of hype for some reason, but there are many other ways to do it. If you want some examples, check out my last video on alternative POD platforms and digital product marketplaces. But if you are aware of the risks, which you will be if you've watched this video, and you're willing to accept them to sell on Redbubble, then here is the honest truth about Redbubble for new sellers. Redbubble is the world's largest specialized POD marketplace. You've seen the figures. It's absolutely not dead, and it's growing. There is, in theory, enough money to go around. However, if you want to get here, you're going to have to start from here and get to here rather than from here to here, like someone who started earlier. Okay, so it's just going to take more work than people who started before you, and that's just the unfortunate reality. But keep in mind that the people who start after you will have an even worse time.